I am Michael Thompson, 38 years old, and my job is to store and discard forensic evidence. This quiet and solitary work is a refuge for me. I spend my days in the vast government warehouse where the echo of my footsteps is my only constant companion. Every shelf, every box holds dark stories of unsolved crimes, secrets that will never be known to the public. The challenges of life have left their marks on me. My brown hair is already starting to show the first grey strands, and my eyes, brown like the earth, carry a permanent weariness. My colleagues say my expression is always serene, but it is just a facade to hide the emotional distance I maintain. Attention to detail is crucial in my work, and I excel at it. Every box I catalogue, every item I store, represents a fragment of a story. The warehouse is cold, lit by fluorescent lights that cast unsettling shadows on the grey walls. For many, this environment would be discouraging, but for me, it is a sanctuary where I can lose myself in work and forget the rest of the world. It was a day like any other in the government warehouse, surrounded by silence and the coldness of fluorescent lights. I was cataloguing a new batch of evidence when I came across an unusual item. Among the boxes and folders full of reports and forensic objects, there was a small diary with a childish cover, covered in colourful drawings and worn edges. In the centre, written in childish and clumsy handwriting, was the name Roxy. The diary seemed out of place in that sterile and meticulous environment. I picked it up carefully, feeling the rough and aged texture of the cover under my fingers. The innocent appearance of the object contrasted sharply with the dark items I usually handle, and it piqued my curiosity. I looked around, making sure no one was watching. With a quick motion, I put the diary in the pocket of my coat. It was an irresistible impulse, a feeling that there was something important to be discovered in the pages of that diary. Without knowing exactly why, I felt that I needed to understand more about this story, uncover what had happened to Roxy and what those pages hid. That night, I left the warehouse with the diary carefully hidden. Curiosity grew inside me as I drove home, thinking about what I might find. Roxy's diary was now in my possession, waiting to reveal its secrets. Arriving home, I sat at the kitchen table with Roxy's diary in front of me. Curiosity was now almost a necessity. I took a deep breath, opened the diary to the first page, and began to read. The first entries were a charming glimpse into a child's life. Roxy described her days with captivating simplicity, talking about her playtime in the park, school lessons, and her friends. "Today, Emma and I played tag during recess," said one of the entries, accompanied by a rudimentary drawing of two girls running. The innocence of these words brought a smile to my lips, but I knew that something darker was hidden in the following pages. As I continued reading, I began to notice subtle mentions of Roxy's father. "Daddy wasn't home again today. Mummy said he's working a lot," she wrote, always with a tone of childish resignation. In another entry, she had drawn a male figure next to a little girl, with a big heart between them. "Daddy promised he would take me to a special place soon," said the note next to the drawing. These mentions of Roxy's father became more frequent and unsettling. The father's constant absences seemed to weigh on little Roxy, but she always maintained a hopeful tone in her words. A special event was clearly coming, something she awaited eagerly, and that seemed to promise a stronger bond with her absent father. I continued reading, each page pulling me deeper into Roxy's life. The entries were short, but full of details that painted a clear picture of her routine and feelings. As I read Roxy's diary, I began to notice a change in the tone of her entries. The innocence that once permeated her words gave way to a sense of unease. The first mentions of the flashlight glasses appeared ambiguously, almost as if they were part of a childish game. "Today, I saw people with glowing glasses in the yard. Daddy said they are his friends," Roxy wrote, drawing human figures with bright circles on their faces. As I advanced through the pages, the presence of these figures became more frequent and sinister. "Daddy's friends came again. They have lights in their eyes and whisper strange things," she noted, her handwriting beginning to show signs of nervousness. These figures seemed to appear out of nowhere, and with each new entry, Roxy's discomfort became more evident. Roxy's father's behavior also began to change. Roxy's descriptions went from affectionate to worried. "Daddy is different. He spends a lot of time talking to the men with glowing glasses and doesn't let me get close," she reported. She mentioned how he became more distant and evasive, leaving the house for long periods without explaining why. The relationship between Roxy's father and these sinister figures seemed increasingly disturbing. "I heard Daddy yelling at his friends. He was scared. I've never seen Daddy scared before," she wrote on a particularly agitated night. The father's frequent absences, combined with his outbursts of anger and fear, began to create an unbearable tension in the house. Roxy also began to show signs of growing fear. "I'm scared of Daddy's friends. They look at me in a strange way," she confessed in an entry that almost stopped my heart. As I progressed through the pages of Roxy's diary, the innocent descriptions gave way to darker and more disturbing events. One entry, in particular, caught my attention. "Daddy said we were going on a special trip," she wrote, the excitement evident in her handwriting. "He took me by car to a faraway place in the woods." The trip started as an exciting adventure for Roxy. She described the dense and dark forest, with tall trees that seemed to touch the sky. "I was excited, but also scared," she confessed, her words reflecting a mix of conflicting feelings. Roxy's father, who had always been distant, now seemed more tense and nervous, constantly looking in the rearview mirror. Upon reaching their destination, Roxy noticed something strange. "I saw people with glowing glasses," she wrote, fear seeping through her words. The figures emerged from the shadows among the trees, slowly approaching. "Daddy told me to stay in the car and lock the doors." She watched from inside the car, her eyes wide, as her father went out to talk to the figures. The conversation was tense, full of aggressive gestures and frightening murmurs. Suddenly, Roxy's father came running back, covered in something she described as red liquid. "He was screaming for me to hide in the back seat and not make a sound." Roxy's father got into the car and sped off, desperately fleeing. The figures with flashlight glasses were left behind, their silhouettes illuminated by the car's headlights becoming just distant shadows. "Daddy was very scared. I had never seen him like this before," Roxy wrote, the anguish and confusion evident in her trembling handwriting. The escape through the woods was a race against time. Roxy's father drove at high speed, his heart pounding frantically, while she huddled in the back seat, the sound of tires skidding on the dirt road filling the air. "I just wanted everything to go back to normal," she noted, reflecting the desperate desire to escape that nightmare. Every line of the diary revealed the growing tension and terror that Roxy felt. The mysterious trip, the figures with flashlight glasses, and the terrifying episode of her father covered in red liquid created a narrative of fear and despair, making me question what was really happening in the woods and what those figures wanted. As I continued reading Roxy's diary, the atmosphere became increasingly heavy and unsettling. The entries began to describe even darker events, revealing the deepening mystery surrounding her family. One specific entry stood out, sending a chill down my spine. "Mommy and my sister disappeared," Roxy wrote with disordered handwriting. "Daddy said they went to visit Grandma, but he's lying. I know something bad happened." The sudden absence of her mother and sister, combined with her father's changing behavior, created a cloud of fear and uncertainty in Roxy's life. From that point on, Roxy's accounts of her home became increasingly alarming. "At night, I hear strange sounds. It sounds like someone is walking in the hallways," she wrote. Roxy also began to notice disturbing changes in the environment. "I saw shadows moving in Mommy's room," she reported in another entry. "But when I went to look, there was no one there." Roxy wrote about how she tried to talk to her father about these events, but he became more and more distant and evasive. "Daddy doesn't want to listen," she noted. "He just says I'm imagining things, but I know I'm not." On a particularly distressing night, Roxy reported an event that almost made her lose control. "I found my sister's toys scattered around the house," she wrote, the handwriting nearly illegible due to the trembling. "But she's not here. Who moved her things?" Each new page of the diary revealed a piece of the dark puzzle. The disappearance of her mother and sister, the disturbing sounds at night, and the strange changes in the house painted a picture of a family enveloped in mystery. I decided I needed to investigate further. At work, I took advantage of the security and access to forensic files to search for any clues mentioned in the diary. I started listing the places and names that Roxy mentioned. The forest where her father took her, the flashlight glasses, and even the neighborhood where they lived. Each detail seemed like a crucial piece of a puzzle I was determined to solve. In the warehouse, I found records of incidents in the area where Roxy and her family lived. Police reports, neighbor testimonies, and other documents began to paint a clearer picture. A name that frequently appeared in the files was Jonathan Harris, who I soon discovered was Roxy's father. He was involved in several suspicious activities, but nothing conclusive. The reports indicated that he had connections with powerful figures and seemed to be involved in something bigger than a simple case of disappearance. Roxy's diary frequently mentioned a cabin in the forest. I decided to research more about this location. In one of the old records, I found a reference to an isolated place often used for clandestine meetings. The description matched Roxy's notes. Something about that place seemed to attract people involved in shady activities. While reading the reports, I noticed a disturbing pattern. Several children around Roxy's age had disappeared in the vicinity. The cases were eerily similar, with the children mentioning figures with flashlight glasses before disappearing. Digging even deeper, I found documents mentioning a secret society linked to surveillance and information control. The flashlight glasses could be a metaphor for advanced surveillance devices, something a child would interpret literally. Jonathan Harris might have been involved with these figures, perhaps even as a pawn in a larger and more sinister game. My investigation led me to cross-reference information with other evidence stored at my work. Security footage, old investigation reports, and even some archived objects began to form a consistent narrative. I found photos showing figures with glowing glasses, reinforcing the idea of constant surveillance. With each new discovery, the truth behind Roxy's diary became clearer, but also more terrifying. Finally, I reached the last entry of the diary. Roxy's words were filled with fear and despair. "Daddy left with the men with flashlight glasses and never came back. I'm scared, they'll come to take me too." The trembling and rushed handwriting reflected the terror she felt. This was Roxy's last note. There was nothing else, no clue about what might have happened to her after that. My mind was flooded with unanswered questions. What had happened to Roxy? Where had her father taken her? Who were the men with flashlight glasses? A few days after a difficult and silent night, I was at home reflecting on everything that had happened and the discoveries I had made in recent days. This reflection made me restless until the silence was broken by loud knocks on my apartment door. What the hell could be happening? Who could be knocking at the door at that hour of the night? I walked slowly to the door and looked through the peephole. My God, what I saw made my blood run cold. On the other side of the door were men wearing black suits and glowing glasses, exactly as described by Roxy in her diary. A wave of panic washed over me. Could these really be the men with flashlight glasses?